And welcome to our next session with Ben Edwards of Sandler Partners. Ben, how are you doing today?
Hey, it's a great day. What an awesome couple topics that we've got here to talk about today, Brian. Really excited.
Yeah, and thanks for the time that you've given us today. I know you're busy talking to a whole bunch of trusted advisors here, which we'll get into. So we have slides here, which is great that it can kind of guide us through this presentation
Hmm.
a little bit. But just for the audience's sake, I've asked Ben to share a lot of his expertise and understanding around like how do you evaluate the CX landscape. So that's what we'll kind of talk about here, and maybe venture into a few other things. But maybe first and foremost, Ben, can you give us an introduction of yourself and your experience at Sandler Partners?
Yeah, definitely. Let's jump into the next slide. So yeah, Ben Edwards. I'm director of sales engineering here at Sandler Partners, and I've got about 20 plus years of experience in contact center. And what I do most of the time is I'm talking to customers or buyers, people who are probably on the session listening in today, as well as what we call trusted advisors, people who come alongside buyers and customers to help them out. My role is to bring all of that experience, Brian, to help
Mm-hmm.
uncover opportunities to really just help the projects get started. I can also bring in trusted advisors and make introductions. And in the end, what I think I do is help the buyers to identify the requirements that they're looking for and the likely solution providers that they're going to be working with and set them on their path or their journey, as we're calling it here today, you and
Yeah,
me.
yeah. And so just for the audience and myself to clarify, it's like, and I know we'll talk about this. Like, there's so much time that you can take into the evaluation phase. Like it's bringing in yourself and Sandler Partners to help with the better understanding of how to evaluate and how to get connected to the partners. Is that kind of like how to clarify the main goal of what you guys do?
Yeah, definitely. I think you got it just right.
Okay. Okay, so let's go to this next slide here that you have, which is again more or less like the thesis here of what you're trying to share with us today. So, why AI is relevant for customers and trusted advisors? Tell us why, Ben.
I think journeys are always exciting. I had one to Orlando recently. It was exciting, but it's also very nerve wracking. I traveled out of the country, and before that, journeys are so important. They're growth opportunities for us, Brian, and doing something here, like we're going to talk about today, like where we want to embrace artificial intelligence or AI or CX, customer experience. It's okay to be a bit nervous at the beginning of the journey. I think that there is just such a high interest in AI right now. I talk about it all day in pretty much every meeting that I'm in. I make sure that I bring it up. And eh,
Can I let me stop you on
yeah,
that just because I know you're talking to a lot of different customers. Are they bringing? Are they? Has it like shifted where now they're bringing it to you of like, hey, like there's this all AI stuff. Like, what do I do here? Or are you still kind of being more proactive in talking to your customers about it?
yeah, definitely. I'll bring it up if they don't. I
Yeah.
love the conversations where they bring it up. I think like a year ago, every CIO said that they needed to have an AI strategy. I think that that's not just trickled down. Like that's avalanche down. Everybody needs to have an AI strategy, regardless of like what your level is in the company. I've got a stat for you. Tell me what you think about this. IBM tells us that like 78% of organizations are investing in AI just in this year alone.
Oh,
So yeah,
that's crazy. That is crazy. So that does
there's a lot of
definitely means that
interest.
they're coming to you. Yeah. Well, I mean, in that regard, and I've had this kind of conversation with a few other like technology partners and agencies, but it puts the pressure on you, Ben, to like have that understanding of everything that's out there today. Because I can just assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of customers and brands will come to you just trying to ask questions to better understand it. Is that accurate?
They do, and I always feel like being a trusted technical advisor, the role, the hat that I wear and play. I don't have to know every answer though, Brian. I'm gonna actually jump into that in a little bit
Yeah.
with you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's go to the next thing here, which is the solution, the cycle. And I love this, and this is why I want to hear from you in the audience, is because this is not just, hey, one or two times that you've kind of gone through this cycle with, I'm just going to call them brands for right now.
Yeah.
But it, the ins and outs of all of this. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about how this cycle kind of works.
Yeah, I think in the solution cycle that a business goes through in adopting a technology, there's a lot of stages that are important. And I'm just showing probably four of the key ones here: evaluation and selection. Like that's early. That's, hey, we're talking about this, Brian. We haven't done anything yet. Like the real hard work hasn't yet started. Hey, have you ever built a house though, or jumped into a big project where you didn't have a plan? Yeah, it's
Uh,
better. It's better
it's
to have a plan.
difficult. Yeah,
It
yeah,
is. It is.
yeah.
A lot of times, customers, they just want to jump into implementation, and the business really just wants to get into that. Hey, get me the technology. I want to start using it part. But you and me today, let's just start at the beginning of this journey. Let's focus in on evaluation. And here's why I wanted us to do this, Brian. I think there's a lot of uncertainty. A lot of people don't know what AI is all about, how it can help them. I don't think there's been people who've really done projects like this before. So it's going to be new for a lot of
Oh
people for
yeah,
a while.
yeah. And I mean, let's be honest though. Like technology evaluation and even implementation has been difficult even leading up to this point. So I can imagine that it's kind of getting into this direction of like, all right, we might have an issue here.
Yeah, I think that's so true. It really is. Um, we always want to have a good foundation to start any project, whether it's a big complicated one like we're talking about here, or not, or not at all. So,
Yeah.
all right, thank you for showing us this one. Let me turn the tables on you. Take a
Okay.
look at these numbers here on the left. This is from Gartner, talking about how we spend our time on projects. I mean, look at that. Buyers don't have time, is my
Yeah.
assertion to you.
So just so I understand this correctly, and I hope the audience does too, like we're looking at this pie chart more or less like in the entire evaluation phase, right? It's saying during this entire evaluation phase, 27% are researching independently, 22% are meeting with client group, 18% researching independently offline, others meeting with potential suppliers, 17%. That's like it's to me that's so diverse. Like there's so many things that you can do, people to talk to, like right, like that's also a takeaway that I see.
It is. Like that's valuable time that we see over
Yes.
there in the pie chart in blue. And then I think it's great. It's like 83% of their time is spent internally, talking with stakeholders. And this is really
Mm,
critical. Like we're gonna jump into stakeholders in a minute, because I think, again,
yeah.
it's a part of like having a plan, is having the right team. But I wanted to talk about this because this is where that trusted advisor can come alongside a customer and really help them, because the trusted advisors spend almost all of their time in that 17% right there. Um, I, as a buyer, get to go through a project like this maybe once a year, once every couple of years. Our trusted advisors are out there and available for the customers, and that's all they do. That's what they specialize in.
Ben, has there been any change in this graph? If you like, if we were to look at this 5-6 years ago, do you think that we would be seeing the same exact thing, or has there been any sort of shift in the last year?
I think the shift is that the trusted advisor's remit or ability has really expanded. Here's one for I've got one trusted advisor that we work with. They authored a report and a buyer's guide on 70 providers of conversational AI. And so, of course, they couldn't have done that a few years ago. There weren't even that many. But there's a real meeting of the minds
Hmm.
in this space right now, and I'm grateful for it and happy to be a part of that.
I'm just gonna have to dive a little deeper into that. I know that's not you.
Yeah.
That's someone else. But is there a point where you just have to? Well, I don't want to say give up, but like, is there a point where it's like, okay, well, if you go past the 20th vendor, the 21st
Yeah.
vendor, at a point, it's like you're not gonna find any brand new features or brand new, I don't know, strategies of implementation, or do you, or is it worth the time to really understand everything that's out there?
Good point here, because there are hundreds of providers out there, and I know that in that list of 70 are a good representation, and I think that's really one of the themes here in evaluation is that we don't want to just jump into a project with
Yeah,
the first provider that comes into our inbox or with a provider that we already have a contract with. We want to have intent. We want to be meticulous, but we can't spend our whole time evaluating. We can't live in this phase forever. Like, we have to make a decision.
yeah,
We have to, for the business, for the health of the project, move forward. 70 was a pretty good number. It's a great
yeah.
report.
And maybe I'll just call out that I think for me, looking at this, like one thing to take away is that it does take up so much time. And I think there is a line that you have to draw of like, you can either educate yourself, but know that it's going to take a long, long time in order to really understand the space of where it's at right now, or you need to partner with someone that you can really rely on to get that trusted feedback. Do I have that right, Ben?
Yeah, you really do. You do. If you're going to have a project, you should have a project manager, somebody who knows the methodology of running a project. If you're going to jump into artificial intelligence, get somebody who knows about AI or is going to help you level yourself up, whatever the case may be. Having the right tool is always one of the things that unlocks making a specific task or a job, or in this case, a project, so much easier.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip to this next slide that you put together here, which is around the stakeholders to engage. Um, a lot of different stakeholders. First impression. Ben, walk us through this slide for us.
Yeah, I don't think this isn't a list that tells us who we have to have. My thought here is for those of you watching today, just the breadth and scope of people who can participate in these sorts of projects. Uh, Brian, uh, you tell me how many stakeholders on average are involved in a team to make like a CX sort of purchasing decision?
I mean, I would tell you that there's one that really makes the call. Like, yes, we're going to
Sure.
sign the contract or not. I think that person is incredibly important to get from the first get go. And then usually there's probably two other stakeholders that are more in like the nuts and bolts of implementation and solving that outcome. Is kind of like the answer I'd give to you.
So it's actually closer to 9 to 13, so a little bit
Holy
bigger than
cow!
even that pool. Yeah, it's big, and that's what just wanting to show and suggest to all of us. Hey, let's recognize that these are big business impacting decisions.
Yeah,
Here's some great people in your organization and or similar in each of our organizations. Go out there, go find them. Recognize this though, Brian. I say this pretty regularly. Um, this is not just an IT decision, but we want to find the business, work with the business. We want to build that cross-disciplinary team here, because in the end, and we'll keep talking about this, successful projects are aligned to business goals, and like I said, we'll get into that in a little bit more. So yeah, check out these titles, and I really like the outcomes here as well. Like
yeah.
if you haven't worked with these folks before, Brian, take a look at the rightmost column under the business outcomes, and you'll see what motivates them. People have different motivations, because of what they're responsible for in their work jobs.
And clarify for us, like, because I think we're pretty vague earlier on, but would this be any sort of tech implementation across the business, or this is pretty
Yeah,
specific to customer support, customer experience?
this is more customer experience and artificial intelligence, but I think the principle in general applies.
Yeah. Um, sorry, I'm just like looking through this. I will say IT has to have such an impact now more than ever before. It's not just about implementation at this point, but it's almost about the philosophy and principles behind implementing AI in a business. Do you come across that now?
I do definitely. I was at an event recently with a bunch of CIOs, and they were continuing to echo the message that they keep getting asked to do more, maybe not with less, but their portfolio of solutions that they have to provide for their business is expanding. And this AI
Yeah.
one in particular has people nervous. That they don't have the staff. There's not a deep bench,
Right.
and they are, barreling forward into this future without uh, the experience and the staff that they're accustomed to.
Yeah. Well, I just find this so interesting because it's like it seems to me if I were to categorize it, it's a bottoms up approach right now, right? Because like something like ChatGPT comes out, excuse me, and users all across the world have access to this. And let's be honest, like most people in a business are probably utilizing ChatGPT, whether the CIO knows about it or not. And now it's like, hey, we should start using this. And again, my assumption is that the word is going from the bottom up to the top. And you have the CIO that is and even the CTO that is kind of like maybe pushing back, more risk averse. And it's such an interesting time when you think about it that way. Or maybe I have it wrong. Like, is that what you've heard as well too?
No, I think you have it just right. Rare is the project actually right now where it's at the CEO level coming down. I do have one CEO I can think of recently, rather large billion-dollar company, and said, we have to adopt AI. Like that was the, from on high. And that can be effective. It really can. And like you said, from the ground floor up, um, each of us. Let me try it this way, Brian.
Yeah.
uh, Are you using AI? Am I using AI? Have we found ways to embrace it in our work lives every day? I think we have. And that infusion that you and I are doing at our individual contributor levels, magnify that across everybody at customer and at my company. Heck yeah, it's like a groundswell that's just really building. And now we are here today to talk about how we want to evaluate these use cases, and we'll get into those in just a minute, to really find business value. It's really happening.
Yeah. Last question on that is:
Mhm.
have you seen the need for like a chief AI officer, and has that been coming up just because of the amount of work this entails and this change and this shift? Can you give all of that responsibility, added responsibility to everything else that was on the CTO's plate, or is that something being talked about?
I have met two chief AI officers this
Mm-hmm.
calendar year. I think that number is going to be a lot bigger next year, Brian. That was a great question right there. We haven't answered the question at our company just yet, and so we have a couple of senior leaders who are sorting out the responsibility, and I think that that's okay too. But yeah, some companies,
Yeah.
wow, tech forward right there, being chief AI officer.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
yeah, that's super interesting. All right, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to the next slide here and talk about the essential questions to ask. What do
Yeah,
you mean
right. I mean,
exactly?
we're sitting here in this evaluation phase, this stage, and let's say that we, from that previous conversation, we've gotten like a group of people together, and we mentioned earlier that we're going to spend 83% of our time talking internally. I wanted us to spend a little bit here. Like, what are some things that we should ask ourselves? And the first one for me is pretty straightforward, but I think it's important to say out loud is, what is it that we're doing today that needs improving? You just said, I'll say it back to you, but slightly different. Nobody wakes up in the morning and is like, oh, hey, you know what I need is some chat GPT at work. Like, let's go put in chat GPT. No, instead they say, they have a use case. They have a reason, something that needs to be solved. And I think that that's really the right way to do it. I think these sorts of questions up here, for me, I hope they're going to make those of you watching and listening in today look hard at your operations internally.
And sorry again to put you on the spot, Ben, but any patterns that you see like that are coming out of this?
Two,
What are we doing today that needs improving? Like, are you
yeah,
seeing consistent answers?
I categorize them like this: strategic opportunity, or areas of great improvement. Those are nice positive spins on things, but like opportunity, strategic opportunity, like what can we do that's really going to revolutionize our business or our customer service, our sales team, and maybe with question, number 4, like how does your business justify investment?
Mm.
If we can adopt some great AI or CX solutions, we're going to have massive improvement. Maybe that will be less churn in our customer base or increased sales.
Yeah.
And that right there, either of those, either the cost of, retaining a customer or increasing revenue are going to justify this. Brian, I want to spend a minute though on number 2
Yeah.
right here. What are some of the great AI use cases that people can actually buy today? It's not just this nebulous thing, AI. I think the number one that we've all experienced are more AI features that are like attached to your meetings or your soft phone, recording, transcription, things like that. How about generative summaries? Have you had those yet? You go to a meeting, hour long, and then in your email, you've got like this 45-word summary. You're like, darn, that was
It's
spot on.
beautiful. It's
I
a
wish
thing
that
of
all the
beauty.
45-minute meetings could just be 45-word summaries.
So let me kind of pin you on that then. It
Yeah.
sounds to me that, and again, I'm generalizing, but the use cases are more internal to start with than
Mm.
external, serving customers and then maybe the responses back to customers. Is that also what you've seen, or would you recommend that as well too? Like, well, if you're going to start with anything, maybe start internally with internal processes, business efficiencies, than experimenting with, all right, how are we going to utilize AI in actual customer engagement right now?
Yeah, you're right. When it's internal, we have this more popular term this last year or so called employee experience. And those are really like productivity enhancing capabilities. Less meetings, maybe those action items that we agreed to in our last meeting get automatically saved into the
Yeah,
CRM or something like that. Employee
yeah,
experience. But let's give them some customer or sales use cases as well. I'm going to bring these out of the contact center. Think about like a standalone chatbot. Those have gotten so much better in the last couple of years. And I called my bank the other day and I talked to a virtual agent. I didn't talk to a real human. I talked to a virtual agent. Same thing when I had to change my flight home from Orlando. So those are great
Mhm.
examples of AI. Then they kind of fall into that self-service terminology, that idea that I want to self-serve. Let
Yeah,
me give you another couple ones. So, agents. Number one cost in a contact center, Brian, is not the AI that you're paying for or the brick and mortar that you're unfortunately maybe still leasing, even though people work from home. Um, it's the humans that are on the phones and handling the interactions. So in that contact center world, this is where we really want to bring AI in and think about real-time use cases like this. Brian's on the phone talking to Ben. Ben is a high maintenance customer. Maybe I'm being really demanding, Brian. AI is going to coach you through how to like talk me off the ledge and how to make me happy in real time. And I think
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
yeah. No, I think you're spot on because you see the AI like co-pilots coming out for
Yep.
engineering, right? Like it could be identical to on the agent side, like a co-pilot.
One other use case that was from my background, I had 5,000 agents. I had 75 employees who did nothing but listen to those 5,000
Hmm.
recorded calls. We got to 4% a month of calls that got evaluated. Instead, with AI, we're going to record every call, we're going to transcribe every call, and we're going to score every call and chat and email and all of the digital interactions. So 100% QA. I like
Wow.
that. And then those same 75, I think about what we could have done with those 75. We wouldn't have done with less of them. We would have had those 75 people on the right interactions rather than like needle in a haystack, maybe
Yeah,
finding a really great call or a bad call. I think that, dang, we could have been such a higher performing organization.
yeah.
if we had had
I
that
mean, it's
technology.
crazy just to think about that for a second. Like, we have the ability, you have the ability to analyze 100% of phone calls now.
Yeah,
Like, come on, that's crazy.
every interaction.
Um, so let's go to this next slide here. So, evaluating your tech stack, buying or building. Oh gosh, what knowledge repositories? Who will support and manage these? These give me. This just makes me stress a little bit just thinking about. Gosh, there's so much to do in the evaluation stage, and again, that's why you're here, Ben. But walk us through this slide for us.
I think this first point is really key, and it's kind of similar thought from the last couple topics. Like, let's look at ourselves. Let's know ourselves, Brian, pretty thoroughly. Let's look at our operations. Are we a buy shop or are we a build shop? I mean, large enterprises, they like to build. They got big budgets, so we like to think SMB. They prefer to buy. But really with AI, like, I mean, I'm getting emails and offers for AI this and AI that. They're, what do we want to do here? So I want us to go back. Let's keep building this evaluation, effort that we have here.
Mm.
We're coming up with a business goal. We've found our stakeholders. We've agreed, and now we're asking ourselves, like, do we really have the chops and the budget to go
Yeah,
out and like get some platform capabilities and hire some developers and that's not a bad thing. I don't mean to say it that way, but or
yeah,
are we looking for a solution that's a build? Let's look at the second point here. Is the AI that we're looking for going to be like a feature like we just talked about? Like, you and I wouldn't go out and like write custom AI to record calls and score them. People have already done that. Like, we'll just consume that as a
yeah,
service from somebody else. So AI can be standalone, or it can come as part of your CRM, like customer. You guys are a CRM. In fact, you're a CRM in the contact center, and you have AI capabilities. So people who are customers of customer today, they can go out and get AI from you guys natively, or they can go out and they can get AI standalone. And there's benefits to both, right? Don't you think?
yeah. Oh yeah. There's benefits to both, but it's again, what business problems are you solving, and what are your variables that you have to deal with at the end of the day.
I've got some really big, complicated ERP and supply chain, and my CRM's a mess. Like, I don't have time to build. Like, I'm barely, I've got so much tech debt right now
Right.
that what I really want to do is take advantage of some services. Here's another one. I think the third one is important because I want people to realize that you got to have knowledge, and that means a knowledge base. It means a repository, because the AI in any of these use cases that we talked about just a couple minutes ago doesn't just, well, actually, Brian, we don't want it to just generate
No.
random answers, and we don't want the GPT that everybody's afraid of, where it's like, creating answers from other people's
Right.
repositories, or just hallucinating, as they say. So where is knowledge? And make sure that is available for the AI as well to take advantage of.
I think that's honestly, from my point of view, like that is probably the most important part of it. Right. It's really understanding knowledge, data, that you have that even others don't. Right. That can like actually make you stand out at the end of the day by using these AI tools.
My company has a lot of intellectual property, and that's a big part of our value as an organization. And before we adopt AI, we want to make sure that we're going to be secure there, that we're not going to lose control of that intellectual property, that it's properly represented to the people who are going to consume our chatbots, our virtual agent experiences that connect
Yeah.
to this. And this kind of leads into this next part, and we've kind of been talking about this. I think maybe, is this what gave you heartache, or heartburn, this last one? Who the heck is
The
going to
who will support and
support this?
manage. Yeah, I mean this closes the loop, right, to our conversation earlier about like, hey, there's some companies that are installing a chief AI officer
That's right.
because they don't know the answer to this question sometimes.
Yeah, it's part of that uncertainty of the journey. It's fun to imagine the destination and all of the fun that we're going to have there, the bold, bright future. But what are we going to do when we get there, when we arrive, and how are we going to make sure that the investment continues to deliver value for us? If you've never had a solution like this before, do you really know what the care and feeding requirements are? Is it an hour a
Yeah.
day? Is it an hour a week? AI, Brian, it's not magic. Nothing is. This is technology. And someone needs to, maybe you've heard these terms, tune your AI,
Mm,
train the AI. And that is really the case. And you can do it internally.
right.
Your provider maybe does part of it. But somebody has to do it. Somebody's always needing to tend to the shop,
Right.
and so I think
100%
that's
agree.
important there. Yeah,
So, last but not least, I think, and this is, I mean, come on, like this is kind of the aha moment here, where it's about business outcomes at the end of the day. I love that you put the highest priorities in here, because I mean, again, this is what I hear all the time too. And so for me, it's almost reassuring. Like, okay, we're not
yeah.
missing anything. I'm not missing anything. Um, but go ahead,
These
walk
are
us through
these
it.
are priorities that I typically use when I'm talking with like people buying AI and contact center solutions, and they could be whatever they are. But the key takeaway, you already said it, is it's these sorts of outcomes that are really going to cause an organization to adopt this. We said that earlier in this conversation that there really is an imperative right now, that people are interested in AI in CX, that people are making that investment right now. And I just encourage all of us to find what it is that we're trying to achieve. What's not up here? Implement ChatGPT or some cool hip technology. But boy, if I could reduce churn by a couple of percentage points, that that does a lot for me, a ton.
Yeah,
I mean, if I can improve brand loyalty, I mean, heck yeah, man. If my AI can not just answer questions, but if it can answer it in the style, the tone, that it matches like my marketing and my culture, like right on. That's going to make my customers more sticky, more interested in buying and consuming whatever it is that I'm selling.
yeah.
So
I have one question for you, Ben,
yeah,
and then we'll finish here. But when I see reduced costs, pretty easy to measure that. Increased revenue, easier to measure that. Improve customer service. How would you tell someone like, all right, that's what we want to do, improve customer service, and then it's well, okay, how are we gonna measure, if we're actually doing this or not? What would your response be to those individuals that are asking that?
like 10 years ago, we would have been talking about surveys. Hey, did Brian complete a survey? I mean, that first and foremost was like, did the surveys get sent out? Did they get completed? Yeah, we want to evaluate and score. And uh, I think that AI is so helpful here. Think of that point that you and I both geeked out on. Like every interaction can be evaluated and scored now.
Yeah,
So I think that's probably like the number one way that an organization should look at AI and improving their contact center team, especially like that use case is exceptionally strong right there.
yeah,
Get 100% of your interactions evaluated,
yeah,
because then you're going to find the right ones, the ones that you want to teach people to avoid or teach the people to replicate. Here's something else I want you to think about on this one. You asked me earlier about how do we get into this. Just have the conversation, okay? Just open yourselves up. Take a bit of a risk when you're in this group of stakeholders that you have built, and just have a business conversation. You don't have to lead with the technology or tell them that you found the coolest chat bot or the best widget that does this, that, or the other. You don't need to be an expert. Don't be afraid to instead just ask questions. Use the trusted advisor. That person, that role can also help people through these conversations.
Yeah.
Heck, use your sales engineers. Customer has just a bench of great sales engineers as well. So use your solution providers to help navigate your organization through these conversations.
Yeah. Well, Ben, thanks again for your time. I think this has been fantastic. Again, just to clarify here for the audience, right? Like evaluation now more than ever is incredibly important. And just to take the steps and correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but what I've learned from yourself right now is like you got to look inwards. You got to understand business outcomes. Stakeholders, we're not talking about one or two stakeholders. From your research, you're telling us that like no, this is a whole company like initiative now, and so it's important to reach out there, and you got to like trust the people around you. If you don't have the time, and most of us don't have the time, right, Ben?
They really don't, Brian. I'm glad we made time today. Thank you, customer, for having me today and putting on this event for everybody. Yes, the journey that we're on here around AI, especially, is maybe uncomfortable and nerve-wracking. It's new, but it's also exciting. It's a great opportunity. I suggest that you guys get talking about it every day. I'm thinking about it in my professional life, my personal life. I think about it with my kids.
Yeah.
I think about the privacy and of course the opportunity. And I think that all of that fits in this evaluation phase that so many of us are right now. It's a good place to be.
That's true. Well, again, thanks for your time, Ben, and thanks for the session.